Where's the picture coming through on this? Major Kennedy, can you hear us? You're muted. Steve. Thanks. Actually,
There was a lot of loss on the audio. Can anybody hear the my microphone okay?
Just give me 1 second here. Okay. Is Jeff playing with it or am I?
Yes.
Okay, well. That's a low seat. Can you hear this a little bit better?
Okay, yeah, you said it's just the extra bandwidth of the internet connection. It's not the mic.
Okay, switch it back to the totem then if you're playing with my computer.
So we're gonna have to hold the microphone? No.
What are you doing?
To sit here and do some technical stuff. So when I go up work, so how's they were saying the audio was gonna work, I need a Bluetooth or something. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, can anybody confirm in the chat now if audio is working, please? Okay. Excellent. Okay. All right, we've got audio. You'll have to guess, but yeah. Okay. It's unmuted now. Yeah. Jake, bring over and let them know that they'll be having. Okay. So who's going to be speaking again? So. Okay. You want me to hold it? Yes. Charles is going to be first. Okay. And that with it. So hand it to Charles. And then Dave.
Please, dans le téléphone. Dans le téléphone? Oui, parce que le bandwidth. Okay.
Yeah, I can do that like that.
I'll have to
Hello.
Okay. And I don't have to press anything here?
We have to speak into it.
Let me know where to stand. Ready to go live? All right. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2025 annual general meeting for the radio amateurs of Canada. We'd like to welcome everybody here this afternoon. I'm sorry that we're a few minutes late. We ran into technical difficulties, and we've got a great group of hams here, and we're trying to figure things out. But guess what? It goes the way it goes. But hopefully you're able to hear me. We have a bit of an internet issue, and I have to speak through my phone for audio to go across Canada. So I welcome all our RAC members that are here, that are online over the internet. We certainly welcome you streaming in and watching us this afternoon as we go through our various presentations for this afternoon. Before I get started, I'd like to introduce myself first. My name's Alan Boyd with the call V3AJB and Victor Echo 3 Echo Mike. I've been a licensed ham for 28 years, and I've been newly elected as the new president of the Radio Amateurs of Canada, and I'm thrilled to be your president and to be here today to report on the status of the Radio Amateurs of Canada. We have a great group. We're here in Ottawa right at the moment, and we certainly appreciate being here. We have teamed up with the Ottawa Amateur Radio Club. We just had a wonderful ham fest this morning here at the Carp Arena in Carp, Ontario. And I believe the latest count was close to 400 people in attendance, which I think is wonderful indeed. So great to have a great turnout of amateurs. I'm very happy to report I have my full board of directors from right across Canada and my executive members that have attended here the last 3 days in Ottawa. We've had a very busy time. We had a working group meeting where we sat and looked at the objectives of coming up for the next 2 years to bring RAC's performance to you and hopefully enhance our organization and foster new membership indeed. So what I'd like to do, and hopefully you can see circular around the room that we're at the Carp Arena, and I'd like to introduce the other board and executive members. I'm going to start with our executive. I'd like to introduce my vice president, Brent Taylor, BY2HF, and Brent is from Prince Edward Island. He's my right-hand man, does a fabulous job keeping me in line. Next, I'd like to introduce Dave Goodwin, V3KG, our Regulatory Affairs Officer. Welcome, Dave. Thank you for being here. The next gentleman is Serge Bertuzzo, VA3SB, our International Affairs Officer. Serge, thank you. And he represents Canada internationally and the Radio Amateurs of Canada. Next is Jason Tremblay, V3JXT. Jason's our Community Services Officer. Jason and I will be doing a presentation in a few minutes in relation to the new launch of the Auxiliary Communication Service here in Ontario. Next, I'd like to, unfortunately, sends his regrets, our IST CETO Officer, Chief Information Technology, Jeff Dale, VA3 ISP. He had a very important family function, but sends his regrets. But we're using him remotely to assist with our connections this afternoon. Next is Marcel Mongeon, VA3 Triple D. Marcel is our legal honorary counsel that does a wonderful job and keeps us updated on all the legislation changes and whatnot. And I've got papers here, and I'm trying to hold a telephone as a microphone is somewhat a little awkward. I next like to introduce our new Member Services Officer, Kimberly Cadescu, V3KKA. Kim is doing an amazing job in regards to membership and also brings a perspective as another woman on our executive. So thank you very much for Kim. For that, Kim, we truly appreciate that. Next is our corporate secretary, who is very important for annual meetings and keeping us in line and keeping us transparent, is Alvin Mass, V3CWP. Alvin is our corporate secretary and does an excellent job, and he'll be assisting today in our meeting. Next is Margaret Tidman, VA3VXN. Margaret is our treasurer, and she'll be doing our financial report to you in just a little later this afternoon. And that. Next is Ante Lord Jensen. Ante is our social media officer, VA2BBW, and Ante is assisting with our media today. And he's bringing new perspective. We're looking at social media as another facet. So watch out. Well, you'll be able to follow this on the various media outlets shortly. So that's part of my executive. I now like to introduce our board of directors from all across Canada. First is Stephen Lee, VA6 SDL. Stephen comes from Alberta and is director for Alberta, Northwest Territories, and Innovate. So welcome and thank you, Stephen. Next is Joel Brisson. Joel, VA3WBK. Joel is over behind me here. He's your director for Ontario North and East, has a large area to cover, newly with us at the beginning of the year. As I go on, next person that we have, I just have to flip the page, I apologize. Next is Alphonse Penny, VO1NO, our director for Atlantic region. Welcome aboard, Alphonse, and great to have you with us. And next is Barry Brosso, V3SLD, our director for Southern Ontario. Barry, thank you. Another new member to our board this year is Hiroshi Takahashi, VA7LET. And Hiroshi comes to us from British Columbia, Vancouver area. We're great to have him aboard that way. And next is Pratis Boudage, VE2PTV, and he's our Quebec director. So welcome, Pratis, thank you. And last but not least, as our board members, we have Ed Richardson, V4 EAR, and he's our director for the Midwest, the Prairie provinces, and including Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. So that concludes our members of our RAC board. We're all wearing red, so people in the audience, and we have a lot of members that are joining us. If you have any questions or concerns, look for your member in red. So, and that's not political, so we'll leave it at that. But anyway, next I'd like to introduce here or let you know about our staff and volunteers. First is our general manager, Adam McDonnell. He could not be with us today, but he's our RAC general manager. So when you call RAC, the gentleman that answers and will definitely help you out. Our marketing manager and does the editor of the TCA, Alan Griffin. Alan couldn't be with us either today, but they both send their regrets and greetings. And they're part of our staff because this is us on volunteers. We only have 2 paid members in all of Canada in RAC. Next, I'd like to introduce Mike Kelly, V3 FFK, and I believe I saw Mike. Mike is our RAC station manager at our new V3 RHQ. Hopefully, able to log in yesterday and maybe watch the new V3 RHQ. I'll be mentioning that later in my comments to the membership, and Mike and his team have done a wonderful job. So thank you very much for that. We have a couple of honored guests that are with us, joining us, and RAC works very closely with our sister clubs. First, I'd like to introduce Charles Langevin, VE2 ZCL. He is the president of the Fédération de Clubs Radio Amateurs du Québec, as we all know as RACI. And Charles, over there. And Charles will be doing a presentation to you, and I'll be explaining in my address to you the relationship that RAC has with RACI. Another big relationship that we have with our other sister club, and I'm very happy to report also that we have Rick Roderick, K5 UR, president of the ARRL, the Amateur Radio Relay League, and Rick has been with us for the last 3 days and sat in our board meetings and presented a lot of very valuable issues that not only the ARRL is facing, but also all of us at RAC too. And we're working very closely, and the relationship between the 3 clubs, we're here to be with you today. So that's my opening introductions and that. The first thing I would like to do is call upon the membership. We also distributed the agenda that we sent out, what is going to transpire this afternoon. So I need a mover, first of all, and a seconder to approve of the agenda for the 2025 AGM. Can I have a mover in the audience? Sir, could you say your name and your call sign loudly, please? Okay, it's Mark? Marcel, and the call? Mike, November, Oscar, Victor, Echo 3. Did you get that, Mr. Secretary? And can I have a second to that motion, please? I see Barry Brosseau. Barry, your call sign again. And you have that, Mr. Secretary, thank you. Could I get a vote now? All in favor, please raise your hand. Anybody opposed? And voting online, if you're online, you have voting. Is there anybody in favor? We'll report from there. Again, we may have a few technical difficulties. Our internet, unfortunately, is not the smoothest here. That's the problem with going remote. It's wonderful to have you aboard providing everything works, and we all know that it's amateurs. So. I'm sorry? It is carried. There's no opposed. Anybody opposed in the audience? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, the motion is carried. Also, with our agenda, we also distribute the minutes, which were produced on the RAC website and in the TCA for 2024. So again, can I have a mover for approving the 2024 AGM minutes? You see Jack there, and your call again, Jack. Okay, you got that, Mr. Secretary. Could I get a second for our minutes at the back? I see Frank Matrix. Okay, thank you very much for that. Frank, all in favor of that? See numerous hands in the audience and online. Okay, and opposed? Seeing none opposed, we're okay online. Waiting. It takes a few minutes. There's lag time in the internet and that. And I'm getting good, nobody opposed online. So with that, the motion is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. All right, next on the agenda, what I'd like to do is call upon one of our sister clubs, Charles, president of RACI. He's going to give you an update on what's happening in RACI, how we're working together, and giving you any other details that way. So, Mr. Charles, yeah, see.
Not only where they put the loud music, entertaining, and you guys can jump in. Good morning. Thank you, Alan, for warming up, preparing in the first part of the show, and we'll move on. So, like Alan mentioned, I'm Charles, but it's written sometime in letters. So, Victor Zulu Charlie Lima, my email is there. Don't hesitate to got me. So what is RECI? For those who don't know, never know. So RECI is a federation of clubs. So we got 42 clubs, 2,500 members of those clubs that are part of RECI. Okay, I'm gonna hold it. So we're trying to help and phases what the clubs are doing in terms of events. We're starting some events, but we're mostly helping clubs doing some events. We're also helping during projects. I'm going to show you some of the projects that we started. So we got different committee, one for coordinating the frequencies of the repeater. We got a network that covers the entire Quebec for emergencies, and also network or shows that are going on. And two that I'm going to show you in a few slides. And we maintain a relationship with the government. New this year, we name a youth director, youth director, and we're obviously part of RAC, and we want to synchronize the project, see what is going on both sides, and take the best approach of each and share it. Don't hesitate if you got some questions. There's no limit of questions for members. So we're formed out of 7 administrators, so president, vice president, treasury, and secretary, and 3 administrators. Dave Goodwin is the external administrator of RECI, so that's how we got a good relationship and news from each other. I'm also part, non-voting part, but I'm assisting the RAC, also board of directors. We got 2 full-time employees, so our director, general director, so Daniel Lorty, and our assistant. And we got now 4 directors of the mission that I mentioned a bit earlier. So first, a project I want to talk about, and you saw some demo if you went to the AmFest, about Arden. So we call that the Quebec Mesh Network, or Réseau Maillé du Québec. That's where the letter comes from. And it's based on Arden. So for those who don't know, there's voice communication, and we already got the RTQ, that is the network across Quebec. We want to build the same thing, but in 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028 probably. It's based on data communication. That's a requirement from the government. They want to be able to share files to communicate data from one side to the other. So that project was launched in February this year. The first meeting was done. We got 28 volunteers, and that raised to 50. So before the summer timeframe, we got 50 people that were involved, participate, some more than the others, but we got 50 from all the clubs across Quebec. And our goal as RECI is, okay, there's already pockets of experience in different clubs. It's making sure that we share that experience, that we try to standardize the equipment, try to do a proof of concept between the west and the east of the province, and after that from the south to the north, and show that to the government to excite them. Actually, I learned yesterday that even the government is already excited, and we didn't do the proof of concept yet. And they said, you know what, we like what we're hearing and seeing, and maybe we'd like to put that in our 12 original offices. So things are moving, and that's the message today. Is there's a lot of projects. We got young people. There's even a club that says all the people involved in that project are the new members that want to be involved in something that will last for multiple years, because it's data. They're coming from the IT, the wireless, and the any kind of background, but they want to help building the new network of the future. So So if you go on the Arden Mesh website, you can see the map. But if you go closer and you look at the Quebec one, you can see that we got a group in the north of Quebec that already got 9 antenna. We got Gatineau area. We got some in Montreal, Quebec, and not represented on the map. I don't know. From Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu. So there's already pockets of experience. We want to make sure that all those pockets communicate to each other, and we increase our footprint for that network. Any questions? Who's going to be the icebreaker with a question? I'm not moving to my next slide if you don't have any questions. Oh, yeah. To the internet. For example, there's one very far. So they're RF connected. That's a very good question. So the question was, is it they are connected? So the 9 antenna that they got, they're connected through RF, but obviously they go through a big bunch of woods and forest. So they're connected to the internet for that side. As years will pass and network will extend, we're going to be able, we hope to have multiple points and antenna to reach and have a backup RF and internet, because that's the beauty of our is we can have both in time. So yes, at the beginning, we want to at least prove that it works and solidify, add multiple paths, for example. And we're in Quebec. But what about the rest of Canada? I heard that there were some in Vancouver, I think. So go ahead. A second question, I didn't force it. Okay, cool. And we would like to share with you your experience, our experience, and that's the beauty of stuff. That's something we put in phases, the sharing experience between clubs. There's clubs that are doing more fundamental work or research stuff. There are some that are more in the emergency. So we share experience, and that's where we're stronger all together, is by sharing more and more information. Okay, second topic. We name a youth director. Why? Because we need new people and younger people. And actually, I don't know if you can see, that guy is doing obviously extracurriculum French. So a course for the last 7 years. He got around 20 youth people a year. Last year, he certified. Okay. Of those certified, he got those 2 students, the 2 girls, 2 ladies on both sides, 14 and 15 years old. with the certification. Their goal, they want the superior next year. That girl in the middle, not part of the school, 18 years old, got based same year. She got Indian call sign and American call sign. Okay? So there's very talented young people out there. We want to increase them. We want to regroup them so they can share their experience. Because sometimes when you take two young people and merge it with a club, we don't feel on the same pace, let's say. So we want to regroup all the youth of the Quebec, increase. We want to name, for example, a president of the youth or vice president, so they can know how to manage a club eventually. They cannot be a club because they're minor. They will know how to manage a club. So after the 30 years old, when the kids will, all that will be done, they're going to come back and say, I got time in the club and I know how to manage it because I did it when I was. So that's the goal. And the other guy wasn't certified yet. So that event, I'm going to talk. That event was at the RECI. It's a scientific fair. This year it was raining, so 30,000 students that passed by that event. Just one of the area. And we got 250 young people that stopped our event and passed like 20 minutes with the guys. We got different stuff, facial, balloons, like that. Very nice. Two of those hit me. There was a little guy that said, what is the minimum age to do the certification? I say, look at those two. They got 14 and 15. Okay. If you got 11, you can do it. I'm at 11. That's what I want to do. I want to do my certification. And after that, you start talking about the antenna. And you knew more stuff. Not hard to say. Stuff about the antenna that I do. Like, and we get a little young boy, is phonetic alphabet by heart already. So young people that are motivated is just to canalize that energy. Any questions? Good. So things that you're gonna see is we're gonna have in around October timeframe, we're gonna have a new website at RECI. The old one needed a refresh, so we're working on that. And part of that website, you're gonna see a repeater management. So we be able to see the repeater and manage it online, and it's gonna be great. So if you're some people volunteer that are developer, so we're happy because new server, we're gonna put that in a new data center. We got developer, we got a bunch of volunteers. When you start project, it's funny to see how people say, hey, yeah, that's a project that really hit me. I want to get involved. So we're going to have repeater management. So if ever one of you want to offer that as a services, we can just translate it. It's going to be developed in French, but and put that in a separate machine. That's something we can do also. And the most important stuff that I want to tell you today that I want you to remember is those words, ARDC. You probably heard that before. If not, the electronic version of the TCA that went out this month, page 8, you're going to have the coordinator, the director general about ARDC. What is ARDC? Station in US, in California, that got money. Okay. Everybody's running about money. They do have 6 projects. 5 of those were accepted, and we got the money. One got accepted, but they ran out of money for this year. Okay, so just to give you an idea, $107,000 for job, $729 for big project at RECI of new money in the amateur radio community. So it works. First line, it works. The process are done. We know how to receive the money, or they know how to transfer it to us, and it works. We want other projects. The project of Quebec this year, the 6 projects, we're all coming from Quebec. We're the 5th sponsor for the club in Manitoba. maritime can do a project, we're gonna help them structure, document the project, pass it, and that's where the general director is involved. Question here? You got your answer? It's a nonprofit. Good, thank you. Non-profit, but like you do, we like money to do projects. We like doing projects. No. Non-profit, you can have a ton of money and do a ton of projects. Okay, so it's not because you're a non-profit that you need to be poor. That's the truth. We got other projects. We talked that when way over our expectation, start with 3 or 4 conferences, we finished with 6 or 7. So people got expertise they want to share with the others, and we're glad to share it, organize, recording. There's one conferences that was listened more in the recording than at the time of the conferences because they got some schedule issue. But we're recording the conferences. They're available on our website, and that's good. We got Marathon de la Francophonie, so we're connecting with France, with Belgium, and some other French country, and we're doing once a month a network where they talk in French for something like 12 hours. So Train Museum Day, so we got that field day like to do. So any question? Do you feel the energy to do some project with ARDC money? That's what I want. Good. I've always been told that. Yes, question. Yeah, the question was, do we have documentation about the 5 projects? Yes, and we can reuse them. So if you got a project that looks like a project that we already passed and went good, we're gonna help you. That's what the general director is for. He's gonna ask you, do you have that? You need to have that because we already got refused on another project. That is expertise, is being able to structure your project to be sure that we get the money, because that's what you want and that's what we want also. Yes. Sure, I got a club that wants to change the repeater. I got another one that had to change the tower in the repeater. If you do digital communication, you involve young people, you're gonna have a higher priority. The lowest being I want an emergency truck. They got a special page on the RDC thing. That's low priority because everybody wants a truck that will do nothing. They want something that will touch people, that will you're gonna bring, that will help for marketing, that you're gonna go to school with. That's what they want. They want to be sure that you're gonna use that money to spread the word and spread the convention and the energy. Another question, sure. Not the certification, but we do have a teacher in Montreal that got one of the, I think it was the Moore score that was credited by the school. I'm gonna be happy to give you the name of my youth director because now I can delegate. It's okay. We're taking all the comments, and imagine if all the province got a youth director and they all have meeting in common and they share their experience and their expertise. I got one teacher that once says, I'm in an English school, the content in French, and I do another translation. What else do you want? Tell me that it's something that we don't have, because we do. Okay. Any questions? Otherwise, it's going to be all for me, and I'm going to leave you to the other level of energy with Dave. I'm I like setting up. Thank you for your attention.
One more thing. I'd like to say thank you very much, Charles. This was excellent, wonderful information, and something that we can certainly work with you in relation to that. So, sorry. Merci beaucoup. Excellent. Just before we call upon, yes.
When there are questions asked,
Okay.
just so the people who
Can hear it, how we're going. Okay, so please bear with us, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing the best we can, and we'll try and get all the technical difficulties figured out. Before I call on my next speaker, I wanted to introduce someone else who is here indeed and is a big part of our RAC program. I'd like to call upon John Groh, V2 EQL. John is the new chair of CARHOF. If you don't know the acronym, it's the Canadian Amateur Radio Hall of Fame, which is probably the highest honor somebody can receive on behalf of the amateur radio. John is here with me this afternoon as the brand new chair, as a new president. So we're kind of working together new at this, John. I'm looking very forward to working with you closely. And John wants to make a little bit of an announcement and presentation. So I'll turn it over to you, John, if you'd talk into the...
Good. Thank you, Ellen. Okay. You all know about the voting. We induct a new amateur every year. We have a voting process. And what I'd like to do right now is, in the next few minutes, is present an award. Somebody who has been on the board of directors of RAC, and also he is a board member of RAC. And we have a certificate of appreciation. And today everybody's using AI, so we thought that we were going to use AI to come up with a certificate. It came with all his information, banking, all the radios he bought, but nothing usable as a certificate. We have a certificate for the gentleman, which we will put later on. Only we do not have. He told me it was caught up in Canada Post. Who knows? With that, I would like to call to the forefront Brent Taylor, VY2HF. Si je peux présenter un certificat d'appréciation au Brent Taylor, VY2HF, qui présenté RECI. Brent, I do not have something to hand to you. Merci beaucoup. Si aucun problème, on va donner quelque chose après. Si, avec ça, est-ce qu'il y a des questions? Do you have any questions for the Hall of Fame? Avez-vous des questions pour les Hall of Fame? Well, with that, I'm going to take my seat and be quiet. Alan, I'd like to give you back the microphone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Is there any pictures to take? Oh, yeah.
Congratulations on becoming our new chair.
Thank you. I'll pass the microphone.
Thank you very much, John. Really appreciate it. And I can't stress enough how important CARHOF is to us. So if anybody from across Canada in the room here, if you know of somebody that is deserving of this award, I highly recommend that you check on our RAC website, on the CARHOF website, and put applications in. We're getting very close to hopefully your board of directors will be recommending somebody to RAC, and our board of directors will approve that and we'll make sure that they get the award. So
Thank you, Alan.
thank you. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, next, one thing that RAC works very hard for you behind the scenes. One of the biggest questions that I got as your new president is, what the heck does RAC do for you? Why should I join this organization? It's so important that you have a voice, not only domestically, but internationally. And the next gentleman I'm going to introduce is a wonderful gentleman that has worked very hard on behalf of you, all of you out there, to get the benefit that we can as radio amateurs of Canada and enjoy it here as a wonderful hobby that we all so love. So, having said that, I'd like to call upon my Regulatory Affairs Officer, Dave Goodwin, to kind of give you an update on what we've been doing at RAC behind the scenes. We are very happy to have a very close working relationship with our regulator, ISED, Innovation, Science, Economic Development of Canada, and we work very closely with them to get benefits for you as an amateur radio operator. So, having said that, Dave, I'll call upon you, sir. There's the microphone, and it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Alan. Okay. Good afternoon, bon après-midi tout le monde. As Al said, my name is Dave Goodwin. My call is V3KG. My name is Dave Goodwin. My call is V3KG, and I'm the Regulatory Affairs Officer for RAC. EST régulatoire. So I'd like to ask you a question. Number 9% on the screen. Le numéro 9%, ça signifie de quoi? What is the significance of 9%? 9%, okay? That's okay. Francois, I think so. Was up first? No. I wish RAC membership. 9% is not the level of RAC membership, something else. Actually, only about 5% of the Canadian amateur population. Tragedy. Exactly. Okay. Okay, ça c'est de électrique alloué, partie de cette allocation allouée des autres services. We radio amateurs have 9%, 9 fully allocated radio spectrum in Canada. That's a lot. Get it for free. La seule chose à faire est de réussir un examen. And is the amateur throughout the spectrum have 8% in medium frequencies. Nous avons 12% VHF, donc 6% à VHF, 8% à UHF. Il y a des allocations pour des radiomoteurs partout dans le spectre. Nous avons des grandes parties de ce spectre. Maybe I am. Okay. I was holding my finger on the microphone. Sorry about that. Okay. So la question est, pourquoi avons-nous si beaucoup de spectre? Why do we have so much of the spectrum? I ask you to pause for a moment and look around the room. Look at your fellow radio amateurs. I think we can all agree it's not because we're so good looking. Well, apart from Charles, it's because radio amateurs, people representing our interests, were in the room at the time the decisions were being made. Il y avait des radioamateurs qui étaient présents lors que des décisions ont été prises. And that means not just here in Canada, but internationally. International Telecommunications Union, when there are world radio conferences going on, radio amateurs are present. Et au Canada, nous sommes très chanceux d'avoir une membre de la délégation canadienne qui est un radioamateur, qui est là pour représenter les intérêts des radioamateurs. We have a Canadian amateur who is on the Canadian government delegation at WRCs representing our interests. Also, all the preparatory work before a World Radio Conference. That same person, Paul Coverdale of E3ICV, is present, involved in many of the preparatory meetings. So a lot of the work that happens at a World Radio Conference happens in the years between the conferences. Les conférences mondiales de radio font lieu 4 années, mais il y a beaucoup de réunions. Presque chaque semaine, il y a une réunion où Paul est présent pour représenter les intérêts des radioamateurs canadiens. So it's a lot of work. Now, my responsibility is primarily to liaise with ISET, to liaise with our director, with our regulator. One of the ways in which we interface with our regulator is in something called CARAB, the Canadian Amateur Radio Advisory Board. C'est le comité consultatif de la radio amateur du Canada. And this is an annual meeting where ISED and RAC sit down to work out priorities, to raise questions. RAC fait des propositions, des demandes pour des changements aux politiques, aux règlements, et ISTE est en position de répondre à nos demandes, et nous planifions le travail que nous ferons ensemble. So that's the purpose of CARAB, for us to have these official meetings. In between CARABs, we are having constant interactions. Emails, telephone conferences, sometimes in-person meetings. We're doing a lot of face-to-face and communication with ISED. We also have committees. RAC a aussi des comités, des personnes qui sont dédiées à promoter et protéger les intérêts de la radio amateur. Et nous avons quelques tâches très spécifiques pour quelques de ces comités. Un des comités est pour établir les normes pour les examens. Le comité des normes des examens comprend 20 personnes de presque toutes les provinces du Canada, et nous sommes concernés principalement avec la mise à date des examens. So the Examination Standards Committee is primarily concerned with ensuring the quality of the amateur radio exams, and we've been doing a lot of work about that lately. We also have a committee on contests and awards. We have a committee on WRC preparations, comme j'ai indiqué, que Paul Coverdale est le représentant de RAC, de la radio amateur, dans les préparations pour les conférences mondiales de la radio. Et aussi, nous avons un nouveau comité dédié à la radio amateur par satellite. Now, one of the achievements of the last of years, actually a great achievement this year, was the updating
de tous les provinces, à l'exception de Saskatchewan, qui est une bonne bénévole à Saskatchewan. Mais nous avons des expériences professionnelles et académiques sans communauté. Les 20 membres sont des examinateurs crédités, des instructeurs en repos. The 20 members committee one to share and they come from a variety of backgrounds, all the members who are student examiners, which is one moment, please.
If you want to hear, we can still hear you on YouTube and that.
Okay. All right. So this process to review the exam involved several steps. We decided as a committee we were going to look at the basic exam first, later. Une des choses que nous avons au début, nous avons établi des standards pour la qualité des standards for the quality of the questions and the answers. And that's harder than you can think. So we had the benefit of 3 university professors and 1 person who is involved in professional certification in the nuclear industry. Experience to speak today. give us guidance how to make a good question, how to make a good answer. And here's our real challenge.
Which is in both of those forms is better.
OK. So, chaque membre du comité a pris une trentaine, entre 30 et 50 questions. Et utilisant la guide, ils ont évalué chaque question existante et toutes les réponses. Et chaque personne sujet des changements si nécessaire. So we had every person take 30 to 50 questions, look at the question, see how it measured up against the standards that we'd established, and that each person made a change. And we went through two processes, 2 rounds of this before we sort of what this is going to be. At that point, we actually moved to a subcommittee. Subcommittee initially of 2 people, expanded eventually to 4 people who looked in fine detail every single question, every single answer, single incorrect answers. It's important that he get answers correct. It's been quite a process. So, la nouvelle question pour la qualification de base, quand on prend 980 questions, totalement, c'est une question de 30 questions. Nous avons retracé complètement 180 questions. Il y a 201 nouveaux questions dans 201 new questions, 188 questions were placed, changed over 80% of questions in some of those changes were like grammatical fixes and others and very small. But most of the changes were substantial. However, questions still dealt 100 subjects.
Dans l'examen pour lequel sans question, sans sujet, les mêmes sans sujet, sur les mêmes, les sans sujets n'ont pas changé, mais des questions dans les sans sujets ont changé profondément. These were accepted by ICED and published in January, and there's the RAC website that tells you exactly what changed each question and how and why. So it's all out there. Anybody who's involved in training courses, anybody who's involved in writing study guides, there's information there that will guide you in how you need to change the courses. The new question bank for the basic was implemented in July of this year. Pour le supérieur, nous avons déposé nos suggestions avec l'ISTE il y a quelques mois. Nous attendons il faut l'ISTE doit faire leur propre considération de nos recommandations. Et en quelques mois, probablement, nous allons recevoir leur réponse. So with the advanced exam, a few months ago, we submitted our recommendations for change. ICED is now considering those recommendations and will come back to us at some point. We're hoping for an implementation of the new advanced question bank in 2026. And we'll do exactly the same thing. We will provide detailed descriptions of what happens with each question, why it changed, and how it changed. So this has been a lot of work. And again, there are, say, 20 people involved in this committee, but 4 in particular have given a tremendous amount of time and a tremendous amount of effort to make these improvements. And I would like to ask 4 people to come up. So François Degnaud, VE2AAY. Dave Newcomb, VE3WI. Gaëtan Trépanier, VE2GHO. And Michel Dumas, VE2SIG. So, voici les 4 hommes qui étaient profondément, qui sont principalement responsables pour les modifications, pour les améliorations de la banque des questions pour la base et les changements futurs de l'examen pour le supérieur. So, as a gesture of thanks from the radioactors of Canada, first, I'd like to François pour son dévouement extraordinaire à l'avenir de la radioamateur et son travail inlassable pour améliorer les banques de questions pour les examens de base et supérieurs. for his extraordinary dedication to the future of amateur radio and tireless work to improve the question banks for the basic and thank you. And Dave Newcomb. How about we do one picture all together? Okay. Finally, maybe two SF. Michel. Maybe tous ensemble ici. On the stage? On the stage. Right here? I went to Lake behind us. Standing, facing. Okay. Okay. Let's try again. Is this going to be good? Let's do it. You want to four things? Okay. So I'd like to take just a few minutes to talk about some of the achievements and some of the failures that we've had on the regulatory brief. Ici pour discuter quelques années. Il y a aussi des travaux que nous avons, les projets que nous avons en cours maintenant, et aussi des circonstances où nous étions déçus. Oh, first off, let's see, I'll go back. Whoops. That up. A second here. Okay, there we go. So, since I took on the job of regulatory affairs officer, we've had a few very positive things happen. Shortly after I took on the job, we'd been waiting for ISED for some years to publish a new RBR4. IPAR 4 est le document qui indique quelles fréquences on peut utiliser, avec quelle puissance, avec la largeur de bande, divers autres détails. So in July of 2022, ISED published a new RBR4, which gave us two new bands: the 15 kilohertz international segment on 60 meters, and it also gave us the 630 meter band. So I just happened to be there at the time when it was published. In 2022, at Carib, we asked ISED for them to create regulations for the amateur satellite service. We've had a situation where there were dozens of university-based amateur satellite projects, but Canada has never had regulations for the amateur satellite service. there is legislation, law that requires licensing for ground stations and licensing for satellites. In amateur radio, we're not licensed. None of us have held amateur radio licenses since 2000. We have certificates that speak to our qualifications. We qualified to become radio amateurs, but we no longer have station licenses and haven't for a long time. So how do you create a license for a service that doesn't have license? Problem. So we asked ICE, we came up with recommendations to ICE for how they might deal with the amateur satellite service. Responded a year and a half later, a workaround. They came out with a process that would allow for the licensing of the ground stations for amateur satellites, the licensing of the satellites, and would also allow for amateur satellites to use encryption for control, because that's a legal requirement. But we radio amateurs can only use encryption if we publish. So again, they provided us with a legal way of doing the encryption to control a satellite that we would not otherwise be able to do. Also, of course, we asked them to, we raised the update of the basic exam, and that's been accomplished. We also have, one of the things we did for ICED is we created an online registry for encryption. So there are some radio amateurs who are experimenting with encryption, particularly with digital voice. There's now a legal way for you to play with encryption at the same time you meet your obligation to publish the keys in the public domain. So we have a web page devoted to that in the REC website. ICED has recognized this as being a place where you can publish and meet the regulatory requirement. Finally, one of the other important things was that ICED updated RIC1. RIC1 is the document that sets the standards for examinations. So in that update to RIC1, it actually formalized online amateur radio exams and gave processes for how we are supposed to do this. The update also established that both the candidate and the examiner must be in Canada at the time of the exam. That was never clear before, and that was done to bring us in line with other radio services that have examinations, and they were trying to make consistency across all of their programs. And finally, in that update, they also allowed accredited examiners in any province to examine candidates in any other province or territory. Before, we were confined, limited to examining in our own province. So these are all little events. And this was ICED's initiative, and we were fully behind it. Nous avons quelques projets en train maintenant avec ISTE. Le premier, le plus important pour RAC, c'est une modification aux politiques sur l'attribution des indicatifs d'appel. So RAC is, you may recall, RAC did a survey on call sign policy a couple of years ago online. 2,315 Canadian amateurs responded to that survey. Though their responses went into a process where RAC came up with recommendations, which we presented to ICED in 2023. We are still waiting for ICED to implement those. We don't know if they will. We don't know if they won't. The biggest problem right now for ICED is the lack of IT resources. They don't have enough IT people to do this job right now. And they have their own internal bargaining system within ICED, and it's hard to get a ham radio project to the top of their order paper. Les préparations pour la prochaine conférence mondiale de radio sont toujours en train. Paul V3 ICV est toujours engagé dans ces préparations. Et aussi, nous avons quelques autres bénévoles comme Brian Rawlings, VA3QN, who preceded Paul in that job, and Brian continues to be an important source of advice and knowledge on this. We also have Serge, VA3SB, who in his role as the International Affairs Officer is also in a position to help with our preparations for the next WRC. One of the things that I've wanted to haven't been able to get done is to work with ICED to provide guidelines on enforcement. There are times when we have to go to ICED to ask them to do enforcement on something or another. We need to find the best way of engaging ICED, provide them with the information they need, begin an investigation. And I think really, if we want to engage ICED, we have to meet them in a way that makes it easy for them to fulfill what we want. So it's down to us to come up with a good way of meeting that requirement on their part. Also, RAC has made a proposal to I said to expand the use of remotely controlled stations. Remotes are very commonly used right around the world here in Canada. Under current rules, only advanced amateurs may use remotes. We're hoping to expand that, and I said has indicated they were agreeable to allowing remotes established by advanced amateurs to be used by amateurs with basic plus honors or basic plus Morse code qualifications. So but they haven't published it yet. That may come in the next update to RIC 3. That's a popular idea. Now, we've had some disappointments. Nous avons présenté une nouvelle classe de certificat, un certificat pour était d'avoir un examen qui est une partie de l'examen pour la qualification de base, mais qui donne des privilèges limités pour une période limitée de 3 ans. Les exigences pour modifier les règlements exigent beaucoup d'énergie de la part d'ISDE. Et ISDE n'ont pas n'ont pas la capacité de mener cette demande maintenant. So we asked ISED for an entry-level certificate at a lower level qualification than the current basic that would use a part of the basic exam as the qualification requirement. ISED's unwilling to do it at this point because the regulatory burden on them would be huge. They simply cannot spare the people to deal with that regulatory requirement right now. The other disappointment we had is last year we made a proposal to ISED on a request from some people in British Columbia to ask for an expansion increase in the allowable emission bandwidth on 472 kilohertz. Currently, we can have emissions of no greater than 1 kilohertz. They wanted an expansion to 2.8 kilohertz. That's what we asked for. ISED responded that they were unwilling to do so because that band is shared with the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard are a safety of life service. And in fact, they still have active stations in that band that are providing safety of life communications. So they're not willing to have amateurs use wider bandwidth emissions for fear of interference. So that's the green, the yellow, and the red. Avez-vous des questions? Des commentaires? Have any questions, comments? Mike. Elsewhere, like in what other countries? Okay, the nature of Mike's question was with the updating of the basic exam, there were many people who chose to take the basic exam before the changeover because they had anxieties about what the new exam would look like. And he anticipates the same sort of thing happening with the advanced exam when we update it. I can tell you what I know from personal experience. I'm an accredited examiner, and I do recall that there seemed to be a bit of a rush of candidates in May, June, July, and I've only done one exam since the 15th of July. So that's my experience. Is it yours as well, Mike? Yeah. Oh, yes? Excellent. I should like to remind you, so we have the fellow from Peterborough mentioned that their examiner had somebody write the new exam within hours of the changeover and they passed. One of the things I should tell you is about the basic exam, our objective was not to make the basic exam harder or easier. It was to make the exam better, a better test of knowledge. And I think we achieved that objective. It's just one question that Okay. All right. I'm just, you know, it's kind of a vague description of a vague question, but anyway. Okay. All right. Anyway, so we can have all sorts of. All right, Brent, I think you had a comment. So if the focus of your question is RAC going to make more changes? At the moment, no, that's not on our agenda. However, if there is a suggestion of what kind of change you would like to see, let us know. And the normal process for RAC proposing regulations change or policy change is to have your regional director propose it at a board meeting and to have that resolution passed, and that will become RAC policy, and that will become something we will ask for the following care of. Great. Glenn. Yeah, I must say, if I have one general criticism for ISED, is that they are extremely good at kicking things down the road. Really good at putting it off for some future generation to fix. This is an example where we have had the amateur satellite service has appeared in the Canadian table of frequency allocations since the amateur satellite service was created in the 1960s, but it was never created in Canadian regulations. So it's been in Canadian documentation. We've never had regulations for it. So this is a problem of ISED basically not wanting to do that work, or it not being important until now, when we have dozens of university-based satellite projects that want to be licensed as amateur satellites. So that's why we have the workaround. Any other questions, comments? Oh yeah, I should highlight Glenn V3XRA and Brent V90X are both the two of the three members of the RAC Satellite Committee. Yeah, the other one is John V1CWJ. Yes. Okay, so question from John V8NW, if I can summarize it, he's asking about zombie ham, the undead. We have thousands of radio amateurs who've passed away, but whose call signs remain allocated to them because nobody told ISED. One of the consequences of the change we made in 2000 to a lifetime license, lifetime certificate, was that there was no way of filtering out deceased amateurs, and it's set up right now. Any of us, if we passed away today, our call signs stay on the books until our 125th birthday. That means if I get hit by a bus today and nobody tells I said, my call sign stays allocated to me until 2085. It's absurd. And again, it's another example of ISED kicking it down the road for another. So we have addressed this in RAC's proposals. We've asked ISED to come up with a system where a call sign would be registered to an individual for a period of 5 years, and they would have to renew at some point during that 5 years. At no cost, online, quick, bing, bang, here's my contact information, away we go. That's what we want. Okay. Well, we could, this could quickly turn into a discussion of the Privacy Act. Really, it's not, anyway, they don't do it. They won't do it. How do we capture radio amateurs who've emigrated? How do we capture radio amateurs who died abroad? If you emigrated and lived in South Australia and you passed away and your call sign is still in the books here, ISED is not going to go and look for the death records in South Australia to find you, right? So it all depends for us. If we want to filter out the dead hams in the system, it's down to us individually to take responsibility for our own call signs. I have 2 lines in my will that instruct my executor to inform ISED that I passed. You could do the same. Is there anybody here who doesn't have a will? Right? We're all responsible people. It takes us 2 lines. That's all it takes. Tell your executor, call ISED. And you can do it yourself. If you know somebody who's passed away and you have a good obituary from a funeral home, that's enough. If it's authoritative enough, if it's clear enough, that can be enough to have somebody's call sign deleted from the database. And that's all we need to do. We need to take care of it ourselves. Can't expect ISED to carry it for us. Well, again, what RAC has proposed is a 5-year renewal process. If you want to renew, you renew every day, go right ahead. We want a simple process to renew the registration of a call sign, but we have to bear the responsibility for doing that individually. Now, one other aspect of the zombie ham problem is the zombie club problem. Any of you read my column from the previous TCA? We've got over 250 ham clubs in Canada who have no known living sponsor. It's absurd. And, are real clubs, real living with dozens or even hundreds of members, and they never bothered to think about what happens when their trustee passes away. They never lifted a finger. It's their fault, their responsibility. Similarly, we have a bunch of fake clubs, one-person clubs, because there's no standard for a club. And again, the trustee has passed away. ISED knows the trustee has passed away, but they keep the club on the books because they don't know whether or not the club is a real living, breathing club or not. Yeah. So what have you done about it? It can be done. You want to talk to me directly, we'll deal with it. But that can be done. So our friend from Peterborough here mentioned they had a problem where 2 clubs merged. The call sign registered to the old club. He wants to transfer to the new club. I've done it recently for another club in my area. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to do. So ISED's really pretty flexible, but they're not going to go investigating death records to try and find the 1 in 500 who might be a ham. So to illustrate how absurd the situation is right now, I've received some data from ISED on the numbers of amateurs in Canada. We have, of the 78,000 people, 78,000 radio amateurs on their books, 2,141 are over the age of 100. That's a rate of 2.7%. So that's one of the great things about this is it proves that ham radio makes you live longer. But the reality is, in Canada as a whole, the number of centenarians is 0.03%. So radio amateurs are 90 times more likely to live to be 100 than the general population, according to ISET. 10, maybe. So that's this.
Some of the lead changes from it says is six. Tell you exactly what they're going to do, but I'm pretty confident. So there's always a surprise. Their agenda is often derailed by other things like printers. Any other questions? Yeah. Sorry, just and we have a well. Right. I am familiar with this, and something has written about. So you may the question was about EST, which is a satellite telecommunications company in the United States. They have asked the CC for use 4 new bands for telemetry, tracking, control of their constellation 200. One of the 4 bands to which they asked for this authority is fix it again. One of the 4 bands is 430 to 440. Now it's a telecommunications satellite. There is no allocation in that band for telecommunications satellite. Amateur radio is secondary in that band, but we're secondary to radio location. So we have this balancing act to deal with. First off, this is an American Canadian business. The ARRL, the national organization representing amateur radio in the United States, we cannot and should not do anything that would and in any way differ from their position on an American internal process. Unless there's some, you have to be a really binding Canadian reason to think of it. So what we did is we consulted with EWL. We perused comments and pacified them and said, we want to be as consistent as possible with your position. So didn't submit comments only after AWL submitted their comments and in a way that fit with AWL's objectives. And AWL should are opposing it. There are like 30 other IRU national submitting comments and hundreds of radio members putting opposing it. Now, part of the problem here is there was a whole lot more excitement about this than there should be. There were a number of YouTubers and other podcasters in ham radio who describe this as being an imminent threat against the complete elimination of the amateur service at 70 centers. Completely false. Also, there was some exaggeration in the nature of the interference that could be caused by this. So those exaggerations don't help the case. It just turns to get people wound up over nothing. It's an important threat. I think it's being handled the right way, but it's in an American regulatory process. And hey, Rick's a nice guy, but frankly, his country's turning into a bit of a train wreck right now. We have no idea what's going to happen in that business, but we did our little bit.
I just wanted to mention that although it's different, there's some similarities between this and what happened a few years ago with the proposal of Frank's to share the middle portion of the 2 meter band with their aeronautical mobile. And what I'd like to highlight about this is in each case it was found out early. We didn't end up having a conference see us amateurs who were on the issue early dealt with their regulator, be established, gained. I think this one's going to go away. A little bit different. Something that we in the 70s. I don't think anything's going to come from the processing and immediately didn't happen. And simply because the amateurs went to meetings in Europe, I was there. Opposed it when it was easy to oppose it, rather than not knowing about it. Okay. So on stage we as a commission continue to present threats of China.
Exactly right. So Brian was referring to the threat that came from the previous WRC. There was there was no direct threat to the amateur 2 meter band on the agenda for WRC 23, but there was an agenda item to try and find more spectrum for the aeronautical mobile service. At a European meeting, at the meeting of the CEPT, the government of France produced a proposal to make amateur radio, to share the aeronautical service with the amateur service on 144 to 148. Now, the aeronautical mobile service is the worst possible service in the world to try and share frequencies because they're in planes up above, right? A big footprint. So there were amateurs who were in the room who were able to begin the process of fighting back against that. So it's a case of unanticipated dangers. There was no threat to 2 meters on the agenda. A different agenda item became a threat to 2 meters. It was countered, and it would not have been countered if there were not amateurs in the room at the time. Yes. So has there been consideration for hams acquiring excess call signs? Well, it depends what you mean by excess. So if Lee, so this is from Lee, the A7SPX. So radio amateurs can hold signs as they wish. There's no limit. You know, so I hold 2. Some people hold 3, 4, 5. I know one guy in Cape Breton who holds 20 different VE1 and VA1 call signs. Seems a little excessive, but he might have a reason. So this is one of the issues we considered in our survey back in 2022. And we couldn't come up with a recommendation on a maximum number of call signs an amateur can hold. Most of us hold 1, some of us hold 2, a few hold more than that. It may be a little odd, but it may not be something that needs to be countered at this time. One of the things that in the current rules is that if you currently have a 2-letter call sign, you may not have an additional letter call. RAC has made proposals for additional 2-letter call signs to be allocated, but we want to keep to that rule. We've also made proposals for 1-letter suffix call signs to be issued with the C and the X prefixes. And again, it would be on a 1 per person basis. So, I guess the answer is we've considered it, and we couldn't find a good number as a maximum limit. Yes.
I have that I cannot have both.
You heard that, did you?
I heard that. Sorry, 2-letter calls or something like that, or I can't. I have to relinquish 1 call to go to another.
That's right. You can only hold 1 2-letter call sign. No matter, it's not 1 2-letter call sign per province, not 1 2-letter call sign per call area, 1 2-letter call sign, period. Yes, you can. You can hold multiple call signs. I hold a call sign, a VO2 call sign for Labrador. It's a 3-letter call sign. That's perfectly legitimate, but you may not hold more than 1 2-letter call sign. Those who had more than 1 2-letter call sign before 2000, before the unit, get to keep them. But if they want to change any one of them, they have to give them all up. Yeah, there's the single most emotional issue in amateur radio. It's call sign. You take away our frequencies, but our call signs. You might have had to leave. Yes, that's right. All right. Questions, comments? Okay, merci beaucoup pour votre patience. Alors, I guess I will leave you with one message. Well, I'll leave you with 2 messages. One, if you aren't a member of RAC, you should be. And if you want to invest in the future of this hobby, please make a contribution to the Defense of Amateur Radio Fund. This is the fund that pays the expenses for our Canadian Amateur Radio delegate to attend the WRCs and to attend all those preparatory meetings. The next meetings will be in Shanghai. It's a very expensive place to go to. And so if we want to have a Canadian amateur on the delegation, we're one of only about 10 countries that have a radio amateur on the national delegation. The way to do it is to contribute to DARF, the Defensive Amateur Radio Fund. Thank you.
you very much. That was excellent. And as I mentioned earlier, the question is, what does RAC do for you? This is things that we definitely aim to see. We fight for regulatory issues, which is very important to our hobby to keep us functioning, to keep us going, and also the concerns that you have as amateurs. As you can see, we were extremely engaged with the questions. I thank the audience for doing that, because the more that we know at RAC, the better that we can fight for you. And on behalf of all of us at RAC, Dave, thank you for the work that you're doing as a regulatory officer. You're doing an amazing job, and it's great to work with you. Thank you so much for that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at the agenda and the time. I know you're out there. There's probably some people in our audience that need a 5-minute break and that. So what I'm going to ask you to do, please don't leave us online. We've got the next thing coming up is a new auxiliary communication service launch. And I want to tell you all about that. So please don't go away. And I have my president's message coming up shortly. So let's take 5 or 10 minutes and we'll be back live on streaming. We're going to fix some of our audio issues and hopefully get that going. So let's take 5 minutes, people. Thank you.
If anybody wants to step outside, the doors are locked. So keep the little Good to go?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if I could call your attention, please. Welcome back online for you that are on Zoom or on YouTube. We appreciate you signing on. There's so many people that are on there. I don't know the exact number, but we're well over 100 participants online. And thank you to everyone for standing by. Lots of information to throw at you coming to you from your new RAC president and the rest of the executive and directors. We've been extremely busy. I will be presenting my president's message to you in just a few minutes. But one thing that I'm extremely excited and proud on behalf of RAC to present to you today. I know I've received lots of emails, phone calls, talking to people in the communities about what is happening with RAC with this new auxiliary communication services. Well, I'm here to tell you today it is finally launched. I'm making the official announcement today on behalf of RAC that we're ready to get going with the program. It's been 2 years in the making. When I first came on to the upper executive of RAC as the vice president, we did the first year with the provincial government. We received at that time $250,000 to get it off the ground to purchase the equipment. We have 10 state-of-the-art drop kits that we have purchased from the previous year that are now ready for deployment across the province. The second phase, where we received another $500,000, $545,000 grant in the second TPON, which is a Transfer Payment Ontario, to get together. And part of this TPON was to augment the first 10 kits with brand new satellite communications equipment. The previous one is all amateur radio related, but now we've gone to the new technology with satellite communication, LTE radios, and of course, the uplink to the internet. Now, a lot of you hams are saying, well, that's not part of, amateur radio or whatever, using all the new technologies. We've got to move into the 21st century, and the things that we need to look at, ladies and gentlemen, is the new technology, because if we want to get young people and everybody engaged in this, we've got to look at it from things like Charles talking about the Arden networks and all of this. We've got to bring it forward in relation to doing this, and this is what we're doing at RAC. I want to thank my right-hand man that's been in charge of it, our community services officer that's put things together. I'm very excited to report that we've worked very hard with the provincial government. I had the pleasure, as some of you may know, to have the Honorable Jill Dunlop, the Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response Ontario under the new Ford government with the Ontario Core program. We are one of 13 government agencies that will be able to respond to disaster, and whether it's weather related, climate changes that are occurring, or definitely some type of physical disaster that may occur, we will be able to respond to that with our trained individuals. Now, ARES, it's been around since the existence of amateur radio, and ARES is very important. We are not relinquishing ARES. We're looking to work with your groups as ARES partners. However, RAC will no longer manage that. It is a problem where if we look at trying to dictate who is going to be an emergency coordinator, where we don't know the politics of local clubs, the individuals, and one of the problems was there was no national checks and balances with that. Under this new project, which is a pilot program that is going to be hopefully launched across Canada, because we have other provinces and territories that are looking at the same model that Ontario has done. but we got to make sure that this model works and is effective. So what we have done is we have the equipment ready to go. The next phase, which we're officially launched, and the reason for the delay, working with government, they have to make the announcements first. Long talk with Minister Dunlop. She is wonderful. She is in court. We had her for a full day at our RAC headquarters. We showed her our new RHQ facility. She's familiar with our drop kit. I had her do a demonstration on D-Star and communication services, and she was just blown away with it and very supportive of us. So we have the government on side. Now we have the funding and starting, and I'm going to call upon Jason to give you an idea, but we have our training setups ready to go here in September, October, and November to accumulate in a large expo situation and demonstration. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Jason, if you want to fill us in on some of the further details with it.
No problem. Thanks, Al. As you can see, I'm the only one not in a red shirt today. So new changes, new developments with Auxiliary Communications. Starting in Ottawa on September the 27th, we will launch our first training for community-based training programs. We later have one in Peterborough scheduled in October. Over the next few weeks, you're going to see bulletins and other information coming out from the RAC website and the RAC head office on our provincial-wide training programs that will be taking place in the next little while. They will include an instructor trainers program because we are going to be training instructors on how to do this. We hope by the end of November to have our first instructors core in place so that they can go back to their communities and start teaching their communities the auxiliary communications process. Now, it takes a while to get this all together. It also takes a long time to manage it. So for us to do that, RAC has gone out and we are finalizing the development of our volunteer portal, much like what Ontario Corps has with their volunteer portal. Come September 20th, that is our target date for launch, we will have the RAC volunteer portal. We will monitor everybody that comes in there from onboarding right through to being able to provide awards, training, everything will be announced through that portal. Through that portal, you'll also have direct texting and emailing to our executive and our officers that are in charge. Each section in Ontario has their own designated part of that portal. So we will be grouping people based on where you live. So we're going to be asking you some very specific questions. It'll be a general application, very short to start with, and then we will ask you to go into your interests. And the reason for that is we want to know what you're interested in. One of the new developments with this is we will be taking applicants that are non-amateur radio operators, because I swear what I'm going to do is train a new batch of amateur radio operators across the country as we develop this. So IT techs and all that, we have already got emails coming in from these areas of people with these, backgrounds, and that we are not turning them down. We will be bringing them on board with some of the new equipment. So by the end of September, there will be a lot of information released, and I hope you will all enjoy it and take part in what's going to be happening. We have funding until March of next year, and we've already been approached to look at funding further. So right now we are trying to get this pilot finalized. This is the launch today. From today until November, we will be going strong with a very large November exercise, and we have selected Sudbury, Ontario for that exercise. Operation Clay Belts will be taking place, and we will be announcing the dates in the next couple of weeks. We already have one exercise with one of our partners, Alliance North, on September the 27th. For the first time ever, we will have amateur radio operators taking part of these great kits and putting it on an airplane and being able to fly into a location, set up, support an IMT, and then be returned via plane. So this is all part of the new training that will be coming on board. So I hope you'll look forward to what's been going on, and we'll see you, I guess, within the next little while. Thanks, Al.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Jason. like I said, it's been a long time coming. We're very excited at RAC. And for you that are watching across Canada, this is a pilot project. As I can say, other provinces are looking how this rolls out. They're very impressed with the situation and how amateur radio is responding. We are getting media. We're working with our social media. We're going to be making announcements, as Jason said, our new portal where you'll be able to sign up. The first stage is with Ontario Corps, where you go and sign up with them. The government will do the background checks, and now we're putting checks and balances in place with this program. We'll fully support the ARES programs in the community, and if something happens that you locally can't handle it, let your mayor and council know through the EMO officers that are there. They will now deploy the ACS to come in and help and augment your communications. So that's how it's working. I'm sure there's hundreds of questions out there pertaining to this, but I'm going to leave it to the end to our Q&A area and that with it. What I'd like to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is to present my annual President's Address to the membership. And excuse me, I'm going to be like a bit of a juggler here. I've got this microphone, so to speak, with the handheld and telephone, and we'll try and make this work. So, first of all, as your new elected president, hello, bonjour, Ani. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. The Algonquin peoples have lived on this land since time immemorial. We are grateful to have the opportunity to be present in their territory today, and we thank them. Good afternoon and welcome to the 2025 Amateurs of Canada Annual General Meeting known as our AGM. As your newly elected president, it is my honor to address the membership for the first time in person here in Ottawa, and to those who are joining us live on the internet on YouTube and Zoom. I'm required to give a report to the membership on the state of the corporation, detail the activities that we've been involved with and the ventures of the previous year, and provide an outlook to the future. As I present to you today, I'm excited to report that we have had a very busy and wonderful year, and that the future of RAC looks very positive and bright. Last year, our previous president, Phil McBride, via 3QR, reported to you virtually over the internet because we didn't meet. RAC meets every 2 years. And it was due to economic development in regards to the climate and saving money. I am pleased to hear that I'm pleased to be here this year in Ottawa, our nation's capital, in partnership with the Ottawa Amateur Radio Club, in conjunction with their annual CARP Camfest, which was extremely well attended today. Every second year, the RAC Board of Directors and Executive meet personally in a working group meeting for 2 days to plan and set a future vision for RAC. We look forward to working with radio clubs across Canada, and RAC is always looking to hold our annual general meeting in conjunction with your club event in any location in Canada. So if you're interested in future, please keep us in mind. RAC currently has a full slate of executive officers and directors, which I introduced you to today. In October 2024, when Phil McBride stepped down as president, I was elected as from the board of directors as your new president, and Brent Taylor, who you met earlier online, BY2 HF, as your vice president, starting on November 1st, 2024 for the remainder of the term ending December 31st, 2025. The beginning of additionally, I am pleased to welcome 2 new board members at the beginning of 2025 who you met when I introduced them. The first one is Hiroshi Takahashi, VA7 LET, is your director for BC and Yukon, and Joel Brisson, VA3 WBK, as director for Ontario Northeast. They bring youth, enthusiasm, and excitement to our board. I would like to thank these individuals as well as those who have been serving in this organization and giving freely of their time and their various roles. RAC is primarily a volunteer-driven organization, and we would not be where we are today with all these dedicated people and to its success of RAC. Now, I'm very excited to make this announcement. Last year at the AGM in 2024, it was reported that our membership stood at approximately 3,500 members across Canada, which was about a 5% increase from 2023, which was very positive. As your new president, I'm very happy to report that this year I am incredibly happy to report that our membership grew to 4,400 members. That's a 900 member increase in less than a year. That is 26% increase. This is fantastic for RAC, and I will report contributing factors that led to this number as I continue my report this afternoon. Also, the amateur radio service as a whole grew by 2.6% over the last year, which means that membership in RAC outpaced new certificate holders by a factor of 2.5. That said, we estimate that only about 5.8%, almost 6% of Canadian radio amateurs are members of their national society, something that we grew from last year. However, RAC is always moving forward to improve on that. And as your newly elected president, that is one of my priorities. Later in this meeting, RAC's treasurer, Margaret Tidman, V3 VXN, will present the 2024 audited financial statements to show that RAC stands on good, solid financial ground with adequate reserves to weather whatever storm may come our way. Let me now explain to you some of the great successes that RAC has done this year to support our growing membership. RAC has forged a wonderful relationship with our sister amateur radio organization. We help and share concerns affecting all amateurs. I'm happy to introduce earlier Rick Roderick, a K5UR, president of the ARRL Amateur Radio League. Rick traveled all the way from Arkansas to be with us this week. Each year, the presidents of RAC and ARRL organizations attend each other's AGM. Welcome, Rick, and thank you for your attendance today. We truly appreciate it. I would also, thank you. I would also like to introduce who you've already met earlier this afternoon, Charles Jean Langevin. Sorry, Charles, if I mispronounced that. V2 ZCL President, Fédération de Clubs Radio Amateur de Québec, also known as RACI. Each RAC Board of Directors meeting Charles is invited to attend our meeting, and in return, Dave Goodwin, who you saw, our Regulatory Affairs Officer, attends their board. So we exchange information, we share, we work towards common goals. I talked to Charles earlier, and we have some things set in place, like this Arden Network and other things working with you that we're very excited about. The exchange of information is excellent. And thank you, gentlemen, for your attendance this afternoon. You can be assured RAC will work closely with both your organizations. RAC is continuing to offer basic and advanced certification courses via telepresence, and the basic course held in the fall of 2024 and the winter of 2025, with counting the fall of this year, will see 330 new attendees joining the basic course. Since the start of COVID in 2022 or 2020, there has been 16 courses for basic completion that has been done as a result of that, with a total of 2,475 people. Today, everybody was asking at this flea market, where's Al? Where's Al? And I thought, oh, geez, they're looking for me. But no, it wasn't me. It was Al Penny, who it was the instructor. So congratulations, Al. You did an amazing job. The advanced course held in the fall of 2024, with 2 classes being conducted and another 2 classes in the winter or spring of 2025, saw 102 attendees getting their advanced course. Well, the course is running in the fall and has another 40 attendees signed up, and that's going to be 142 additional people. These courses are reaching a nationwide audience, which allows the interested in amateur radio in some of the most remote areas of our country to participate. RAC now also offers the CW course, which we've added to the mix, that members can sign up for free under a Maple Leaf Operators membership. I want to thank Alphonse Penny, V1NO Atlantic Director, for instructing the basic course, Dave Goodwin, V3KG, for the Regulatory Affairs Officer for instructing the advanced course, and Tony Pattinson, V2KM Assistant Director for Quebec, for instructing the CW course. Now, unlike most other national societies, RAC's interface with our regulatory is not a political one. As Dave alluded to earlier, RAC sits on the Canadian Amateur Radio Advisory Board, known as CARAB, with Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, the federal agency responsible for our spectrum management and regulations. This unique medium allows for regular two-way discussions directly with policy staff and the amateur radio service. This year, CARAB's meeting will be held on Monday, the 8th of September, and I'll be in attendance along with Dave and other members of our executive to sit with the ISED committee. Dave, V3KG, will be acting as chair for topics for discussion, and this year on the recommendations for changes to the RIC 9, which we are working hard on, the policy document that deals with call signs, and I heard in the audience today many questions pertaining to that. Last year, RAC discussed the progress that ISED was making at implementing RAC's proposals for changes to the basic question bank. Dave and his committee, who we were honored today, and thank you, gentlemen, on behalf of RAC for all your hard work. We appreciate it. Dave and his committee worked extremely hard, and the new basic question bank is now completed. It was revised by ISED. The new question bank was released on July 15th of 2025. Dave worked hard to update the ham study guide to reflect the new question bank questions, and is now going to be available very soon for purchase. Dave advises me that the next project for himself and the team is to get the update to the advanced questions, and hopefully, if all goes well, we're looking at a launch in sometime in 2026. RAC also represents two proposals to ISED based on input from the membership. We listen to you and we bring it forward. One was to enact policy changes that would allow basic and basic with honors that Dave presented to you for certificate holders to operate remotely controlled stations hosted by advanced certificate holders. We are working hard on this, and we will be mentioning this further, and hopefully we can make this a reality. Finally, RAC informed ISED that we would be hosting a public area for RAC's website to publish keys and codes for wishing to experiment with encryption. in the amateur radio service. This page would fulfill the regulatory requirements around encryption with the new digital modes and that which we're looking at. I am pleased to report that this was accepted by ISED, and RAC now supports this directory attached to our website. Again, I thank Dave for all his excellent work that he has done as our regulatory officer, and you heard from that today. So thank you very much, Dave, for all your work. One of the reasons RAC is so effective as an advocate for our spectrum is our participation in the regulatory events at the international level. In 2027, RAC Special Advisor Paul Cloverdale, VE3 ICV, will be attending the World Radio Communications Conference, known as WRC 27, in Shanghai, China. Attending these meetings such as this are vital to the defense of our spectrum. And it has been reported we're able to hold our own and starve off threats to our spectrum that has been proposed. RAC is a member of the IARU, the International Amateur Radio Union. We will be in attendance in Zone 2 IARU conference in October this year in Salvador, Brazil. Representing RAC will be our Vice President, Brent Taylor, VY2HF, and our International Affairs Officer, Serge Pertuzzo, VA3SB. Also in attendance with our Atlantic Director, Al Penny, who sits on the ARU board. So I can tell you, RAC is well represented at these international affairs, and we're fighting for you. That's one of the things that RAC does for you. Participating in these meetings are very expensive, and to that end, RAC maintains the Defense Radio Fund, known as the DARF that Dave alluded to, for the sole purpose of sending representatives to these world communication conferences every 4 years and sooner. With the rising cost of travel, we ask for donations. I can't stress it enough, people. If you want to keep these frequencies, please donate to this fund. It's so critical, important fund to ensure that we can maintain a presence at these international tables. There has been a great deal of activity on the community services file thus far. One of the first needs that I felt our membership was a new role under the executive section. A new position called the Membership Services. This role helps our new members of RAC and promotes for the recruitment of new members. I am happy to welcome Kim Kadeski, 3KKA, to this position. She is doing an amazing job, and you'll probably hear from her, which reflects our increased numbers, which brings another woman's perspective to this organization. I can tell you we do need it, and it helps. With the need to market RAC to let people stay connected, not only in our members, but amateurs who are not members. And you may be listening today that maybe you're not a RAC member, and that's fine, but we would love to have you as a RAC member. What we are trying to do is we want to stay connected, and members that are not familiar with RAC, we want to change that. We want to bring what we're doing to you. Another new position was called the Social Media Officer. Another new position was created, and this will allow for media postings about RAC on what we are doing, president to the vice president, the executive, and the board. In the near future, you'll be able to follow and watch us on Twitter, X, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and what other social media we need to be at. To coordinate all of this, I've appointed Ante Laura Jensen, VA2 BBW. Ante brings a wealth of knowledge. He's been helping us today with getting this off the line with a lot of technical difficulties. We are growing the organization at a section and national levels, but we need more. Please consider volunteering and joining RAC. As you heard today, I'm excited to finally announce the launch of the new Auxiliary Communications Service of Canada, ACS. And the national level, we are taking advantage of provincial partnerships to fund development. To that end, RAC entered into an agreement with the province of Ontario under Premier Ford's new Ministry of Emergency Preparedness and Response that oversees Emergency Management Ontario. We have received significant funding to the tune of $500,000. This funding will be used to develop both the ACS program through recruitment and training, as well as develop assets. 10 state-of-the-art equipment drop kits, which was on display today, not all 10 of them, but we had one. And RAC is a partner under the new Ontario Corp program as one of 13 organizations that can be developed in times of disasters. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure to have the Honorable Jill Dunlop, Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response, visit RAC headquarters and see the first-hand amateur radio in use. We hope to use this as a template to seek similar with other provinces and territories, as well as the federal government, to complete a Made in Canada auxiliary communications curriculum and certification. I would like to thank my Community Services Officer, Jason Tremblay, V3JXT, and the volunteers. We have Jack Benz from Southern Ontario that is here with us today, and all the volunteers working with him for countless hours that they have spent developing this program, and I wish them continued. RAC has a corporate office in Ottawa since its inception back in 1993, but over the years, it fell into a state of disrepair. Former Director for Ontario North and East, Craig Damage, V3OP, and Mike Kelly, who is here today, FFK, saw the refurbishment and expansion of our space. In addition, the VE3 RHQ was struck for the purposes of funding the amateur radio at RAC's national headquarters. All of renovations have now been completed, and another announcement that was made last night was the official launch of the new V3 RHQ flagship station. I am also excited to announce that RAC has formed a partnership of equipment manufacturers and distributors, including the supporting V3 RHQ and the RAC membership. Flex Radio Incorporated and ICOM Canada have put on loan top-of-the-line equipment to the flagship station. I am pleased to announce Flex 8600 radio with matching amplifier and supporting tuner, and all supporting remote connectivity software to our headquarters. Also, ICOM Canada loaned an IC 7760 state-of-the-art HF radio with PW2 amplifier and RSBA1 remote connectivity software. In future, as members of RAC, we will be able to remote in and take advantage of this equipment. If you are in Ottawa, I welcome all amateurs to stop by our V3 RHQ headquarters and see what we have on display. I would also like to thank Craig and Mike, as well as our office manager, Adam McDonnell, for all the time they've spent purging the office and storage closet and putting together, executing the plans and giving us space we can be proud of. Mike Kelly, FFK, who is here, has been appointed as the RAC V3 RHQ station manager. Thank you, Mike, and all your team for all your efforts. On the youth file, RAC once again participated in the Canada-wide Science Fair in Fredericton, New Brunswick, at the campus of the University of New Brunswick. This past June, hundreds of students were introduced to amateur radio, and many asking questions and showing genuine interest in what we do. I want to take this opportunity to thank Vice President Brent Taylor for his attendance, along with Al Penny, our Atlantic Director, for their attendance and showing you what the amateur radio is all about. Thank you so much, gentlemen. RAC is busy planning and restoring the RAC store. We will be able to provide RAC merchandise that will be available to the public. We anticipate hopefully launching this soon. Please keep checking our website for future details. RAC provides many services to radio amateur community, and we do it as a 100% volunteer-run organization. If you are a member of RAC, I personally want to thank you for your support and confidence. If you're interested in being part of the future of amateur radio in Canada as a volunteer, I ask you to send an email to volunteer@rac.ca to see what opportunities there are for you. If you are not a member, I urge you to go to the RAC website and definitely sign up today. Your support will mean the continued defense and development of this hobby and service that we have all come to love. In closing, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Board of Directors, the executive, the staff, and the volunteers of Radio Amateurs of Canada for their support and friendship and confidence in me as your new president. I plan to take RAC to a new level with the support of the executive and board, and where transparency, honesty, and customer service is a priority for our members. I pledge our efforts to continue building and expanding this organization, as well as preserving the defense amateur radio service in Canada. Sorry, I'm trying to manage here. That, ladies and gentlemen, concludes this as your membership. I want to thank you for all your attention and support. And if there's anything I can do as your president, please feel free to contact me. I would very much like to talk to your clubs and give you further insight as to what we're doing. Thank you, merci, and miigwech. Thank you. So, having addressed my report, can I ask for a motion to accept my president's report? And that, I see Patrice to support, and your call sign again, Patrice, I'm sorry. Okay, and the seconder. Thank you, Joelle. Okay. With that, we will ask for a vote online. I'm sorry? And everybody here too. So I ask for acceptance. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay. Majority online. Everybody here not hearing anything. Mr. Secretary, my report has been approved. On behalf of RAC, thank you so much for your support. With that, I'd like to now call upon my treasurer, Margaret Tidman, to come up and please give the 2024 status of the RAC financial statement. And I think we can get that projected up on the screen for you. With that. Yes, I wanted to add, gentlemen and people online, all the presentations, all the information that has been shared will be available to you. So I know it wasn't perfect today, but we'll work hard and we'll make sure you get everything. So with that, Margaret, I'll turn you over to the fancy microphone here, and good luck with it.
Thank you. Okay, it's going to be very short. We will be out of here shortly. Okay, so presented up on the screen are our draft financial statements because they cannot be finalized until we have approval. Just to let everybody know. So, financial statements for 2024. I'll go through the balance sheet and profit sharing statement. At the end of 2024, we had $308,449 in cash and GICs. $23,310 was part of the Ontario government grant money, so that has to be set aside. $28,484 was committed to DARF, YEP, and the RAC station, leaving $256,645 in cash and GICs available for RAC. On there, you'll notice there shows here $125,000 right there. Internally restricted funds. That money is earmarked to be spent in order, if something bad was to happen at RAC and we had to wind up, we have funds to satisfy any outstanding commitments, production, that kind of stuff. At the end of 2024, accounts receivable, $22,000, which was mostly club insurance and TC return invoices. Accounts payable and accrued liabilities were $28,916. Deferred membership, which is people who pay for multiple years, so the money that sits for future years' recognition of revenue, was $111,000. I'm just going to move to the next statement. Does anyone have any questions on that before I move to the nothing heard? All right, statement of operations. Total revenue, $16,568, which is an increase of $158,298 compared to 2023. $127,578 was related to the Ontario government grant, which built these beautiful cases and equipment inside. $18,266 was related to the RAC VE3 RHQ station fund. $20,000 was related to an increase in membership revenue. Woohoo! Thank you, everybody. And there's a few other ups and downs, but those were the big ones to discuss. Total expenses, $509,708, an increase of $131,037 compared to 2023. $144,163 was related to the Ontario government grant funds. $18,266 for the RAC HQ station. A few other ups and downs, but one of the big ones was $34,302, which we didn't spend in 2023 because we only have our planning meetings and in-person AGM every other year. So 2024, we did not have one. So that brings us down to a surplus of $6,788. That's all I have. These will be approved today. They will be, the final statements will be published in the TCA in November. Regarding this? Margaret.
I heard in relation to that, so can I get a mover to approve the financial? Okay, Lance V3LP, Lance Peterson, Victor Echo 3 Lima Papa. Oh, Victor Alpha, for correcting that, it's important. And can I get a second? Go ahead. Thank you, John. All right, all in favor? Give a minute or two online. Are there any opposed? I hear nothing in the audience. We'll just wait a second on. Okay. Okay, one opposed and 32 in favor. So the report has been carried, Mr. Thank you very much, Margaret. Oh, you're back to your seat. Appreciate you being there, indeed. And thank you. Margaret does a wonderful job, which now leads next notice. I'm going to ask for a bylaw change to our constitute. I'm sorry? Oh, yes. Our next auditors for 2025. The recommendation, who's been doing RAC's books for a number of years, is Baker Tilly Auditors. They do a wonderful job. They work very closely with us, and they're located here in the Ottawa area where our headquarters are located. So could I get a motion, RAC recommendation to the membership? We appoint Baker Tilly as our financial auditors for 2025. Get a motion for that? I see Patrice at the back. And the seconder for gentleman, Jay Clay, VA3 Yankee Charlie Lima. Oh, Victor Echo 3. Thank you. Acoustics are not the greatest here, so. Okay, all in favor? All right, we'll give a second. And anybody opposed? Seeing nothing in our audience here. Okay, 94 in favor, 6% not. So that would say that we now have our new auditors for 2025. It is a motion that has been passed. Thank you. And thank you to the membership for that. All right, that brings us to our next topic in regards to our RAC constitutional change notice. We published this on our RAC website and in the TCA magazine months ago so that you're aware of this. As your newly elected president, what is happening is we all know it's very hard to get new individuals, volunteers, and that anybody that's involved in any organization is extremely difficult. And as your new president, I learned because of our Constitution that the terms of our people that have done such an excellent job were coming to an end. And I was going to lose half of these excellent people at the end of this year. As a result of that, that concerned me because our Constitution gave for 6 years, which is 2 3-year terms. And at the end of that, now the reason for that is RAC wants change. And we want to bring in new blood in that. But as we age, we're finding it more difficult. So we believe that these terms are an important part of keeping our organization fresh, renewed, and generally should be observed. Although the ability to install new directors is not an issue, the 6-year limitation for executive members does. In some circumstances, leads to problems finding retaining some officers who bring specialized experience to the role. For example, RAC's treasurer, who you just heard from, Margaret Tidman, needs to be someone with a strong background in finance and accounting, which she obviously has. A 6-year term could limit and require that person to leave their executive position, and Margaret was slated to leave at the end of this year. It could trigger a search for someone when, in fact, the incumbent was doing well and was willing to continue. So my proposal to the RAC membership is, in light of the above, we are asking for consideration of an amendment to our bylaw 6.08, which presently reads, all positions on the executive shall have a term of 2 years. A full term of office is defined as the commencing January 1st of the first year and December 31st of the second year. Any person may occupy the same office for a maximum of 3 consecutive terms for a total of 6 years, with a particular term not being counted as a full term. As the discretion of the board, a person may subsequently hold a different executive office or may return to the office previously held after a break of that office of at least 1 year. We are asking you to consider the following addition. Upon completion of 3 full 2-year terms of office, the board may, and this is very important, on unanimous decision, and consent reappoint any member of the executive for one additional term of 2 years. We believe requiring unanimous consent for the board for extended executive appointments preserves the intent of term of limited provision while permitting the retention of especially willing, specialized, and valuable members of our executive so we continue to give you the excellent service that we're able to do. This will help senior executives like myself as president and Brent Taylor as vice president to determine how the direction of our organization goes. So at this annual general meeting, I am now asking for a motion to accept the amendment to Directive 6.08 for the term of executive office. Okay, Jack can go up first, Jack Benz, and you can give the call sign to, okay, and hey, did you get that, Marcel, V-A-V-A? Okay, if you could do phonetics for the acoustics and that. All right, all in favor? Okay, anybody opposed? Not seeing anybody in the audience. How are we doing online? 86 in favor, 14 opposed. That means this motion was carried. And thank you very much for your support in that. From an executive level, it's a unanimous amongst your board members. If one person says, no, I don't want that person back, then it does not take place. So thank you very much on passing our amended bylaw. All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, that gets down to the bottom and the end of our get together here. I want to thank everyone. We're going to give an opportunity to any questions that anybody may have, any of the topics that we did today. I may ask upon my executive and board, as you may be more aware on certain issues or topics that come forward. I'll try and answer to the best ability, but I will call upon people involved. So are there any questions, first of all, in the audience that you may have on any of the things that we talked about? I'm not seeing any, which kind of leads me to believe it's getting a long day, and I sometimes appreciate that. These annual general meetings are never easy, and I appreciate the patience of the audience and you people online. We may have some online. Please go ahead. Yeah, so the question was, a report from the, why did we not have a report from the auditor? Usually auditors don't give the financial report. It's up to our treasurer of our organization to do that. It was put to you today, and it will be fully reported online for everybody to see. Yeah, the full report, according to our treasurer, will be in the November-December TCA magazine. And that's what we know. Here. Okay. And for those online that didn't hear that, if you have any questions in regards to our reports, please email Margaret, treasurer@rac.ca, for further information. Any other questions? No, we don't see anything. All right, just in closing, ladies and gentlemen, thank you today. I know it's been a long day. I want to thank each and every one of you for your support. As I mentioned in my notes, honesty, integrity, and transparency or what we're going to do for RAC. So thank you for your support. We look forward to you. And if you have any concerns, please email me at president@rac.ca. So on behalf of everyone, thank you and good afternoon, and thanks for joining us.